Hello everybody, and welcome to another exciting, fun-filled episode of Radiorama, where I show you, as the name implies, how to work on radios, sometimes televisions, stereo systems, or record players, and other stuff that tends to run on glowing vacuum tubes. And today we have a Zenith clock radio, model number Z519P. Zenith made a ton of clock radios in slightly different model configurations, usually in the case. I don't think I've ever seen one in this color. It's kind of this interesting creamish yellow color. It's very nice. I don't know if it works or not. It was donated to us at the museum about 2 weeks ago. My experience with Zenith is that they just generally work. And the clock is at least working, so let's... This model, for some reason, tends to snap the tuning cables. So let me fire it up. You should not do this with a set that has a power transformer, because if there's going to be a drastic short, it could take out the power transformer. Worst that'll happen in this guy is it'll take out the little 1/4 watt resistor in this filament string.
In West Hollywood, as well as in Times Square in New York City.
Levine says this also comes against a broader increase in anti-Semitism.
Unfortunately, it's rightful concern for all members of our community. We've reached historic.
Stuff that's going on in Israel really bothers me. I think it bothers a lot of people. Just people being violent towards one another. Let's see. Not much to write home about here. It's just a 5-tube ordinary set. We've got a Telecron clock movement. And unsurprisingly, all looks like the original tubes. You had to pay a little bit more for a Zenith back then, but the quality was so much better. Especially when you talk about comparing it to, for example, General Electric, which in my opinion made a bunch of crap. Especially starting in the 50s. Zenith was really late to the game using PC boards, because early PC boards had a tendency to get cracked leads because of the heat from the tubes, and so they hand-wired everything forever. This is probably made between 1955 and 1963. I'm going to guess it's a lot earlier than 1963. Probably put it between 55, 57. You got the civil defense marking. If you don't know what civil defense is, as far as what that stood for, look it up. It's very fascinating. It was a system that really didn't work, so it wasn't around for a long time. But it wasn't around for a very long time. Sorry. So if you see radios that have either the CD mark or little triangle, that's what that is. You would tune to that station. The problem with the system was that you had to know that we were under attack in order for you to tune to that station. The theory was, well, if there's enough air raid sirens around, people will know, well, there's something bad happening. I'm going to turn to one of the two CD, or the civil defense stations. Unfortunately, this cord is done. It is, when you see it start to crack like that, that means it's dry rotten. It shouldn't be trusted. So that cord's going to be replaced as well. We're just going to do a general overhaul on this guy, meaning a recap job. And obviously, of course, we need to fix the broken tuning string, because right now it's not usable. Alright, so I pulled it all out. The clock radio comes out through the back, and not surprisingly, this is all factory original. Nothing's been done to it. I think this is a later model, because earlier models had a lot more wax capacitors. This only has 2. The rest of them are all ceramic. We have 2 values here. We have a 80 microfarad and a 40 microfarad in the electrolytic can, which is this guy, and it looks like square shape is 80, triangle is 40, and let's see, where's our square? Here's our triangle right there. So this guy is the 80 microfarad. No big deal. We'll replace that with a 100 microfarad capacitor, because that's what I've got. I don't know what that is. Not much to do on this guy. That's what I like about some of these Zeniths, is that they, whenever there was a quality components to use, they would usually be one of the first to do so. Alright, so all the caps are replaced, and I've installed a new cord. This is actually off of an old iron that we had sitting around, and eventually I threw away, but I cut the cord off. So like, this is the appropriate wattage we want, because if someone were to plug in a device here that's up to 1,000 watts, this cord will totally handle it. What I want to do next is clean the cabinet. I have it sitting here in the sink. And what I've done is I've sprayed it with simple green. And we're going to clean this up. Alright, so now that the cabinet has been cleaned in the sink, I'm going to use Novus number 2 for basically polishing up the plastic. There's a lot of abrasions and stuff here. I know it's not easy to see because it's such a light plastic, but all of that extra effort as far as making this look perfect goes a long way. Again, I think this is kind of a, what do you say, like kind of a interesting color. I've never seen this before, so I want to make it look as good as it possibly could be. All right, welcome to day 2 working on the Zenith. And I spent some quality time on this last night, and you can see it came out shiny like a mirror. And of course, I also need to do these plastic lenses here, and maybe the knobs. But in the meantime, since we got the electronics done on this last night, I'm going to fix the dial cord. Sometimes dial cords can take as long to replace as recapping the radio. But this one's pretty basic. There's not much going on. I think before I do that, I'm going to clean up the chassis a little bit and also lubricate the bearings, which are in the front and the back here. That'll just make it turn a lot easier. Maybe put just a little drop on this, making sure not to get it on that part where the string will go. In fact, it's nice that it's rusty because it'll make the grip a lot better. I don't know why. I just like to have a clean chassis. I know no one's going to see it, but I know it's clean, and that makes me feel better because I'm OCD, and that's how OCD people think. Okay, so I'm going to use my Zoom spout oil, and I'm going to put a little bit of oil here, and then a little bit back here. And already that's turning a lot better. It's going to make our stringing job a little bit easier. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit here on the tuning thingy. Just a drop here, not much. You don't want it to creep into the channel. All right, we're all good there. And since the original dial string is still with it, and we can see how long that is, we can measure approximately how long we need. Sometimes the string like falls out of the back of the cabinet, and you just have to guesstimate how long it should be. But we have the string, so we can measure accordingly. All right, so I've made my new loop using this stuff called squidding line. I don't know what squidding line is supposed to be. I'm assuming it has nothing to do with catching squid, but any of you fishermen out there, you can let me know what that could possibly mean. So what we want to do is like attach the spring here, and then we'll wrap it around this drum here and then around this, and hopefully it'll all come together and work again. All right, look at that. Whee! Now that works perfectly. I think what I'm going to do before I do anything else is I want to make sure the radio actually still works after a recap. Sometimes if you recap these guys, they'll need to be realigned. This one worked pretty well from what I could see, so I'm assuming it might be all right, but who knows? All right, here we go. Got it turned on with the antenna connected and all that other good stuff. That sounds promising.
Him at high noon, he said the light.
National Parts people will test your old battery for free and recommend the right battery for your vehicle. For power, performance, and reliability, choose Superstar batteries only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Now up to the D-box.
I'm not sure if that noise is from my isolation transformer or what, but it's very buzzy.
So I just want to be clear on this. If Tyler is with us, hello, Tyler.
Rounding second base and staring at Orlando Arcia. And
Let me try it just through the outlet, because I mean we've got the safety cap in there, so it should be greatly reduced as far as the amount of current getting to the chassis anyway. It definitely does not like my isolation transformer.
here's the pitch. Swing and a foul at the plate by Brandon Marsh. And it's 0-1. By the way, the last time
Big whoop-de-doo. I've never been a sports fan, and I'm especially not a fan of baseball. It's like the slowest game on the planet. For up to me, I'd watch bowling, but I don't even have television. I just have streaming audio or streaming a video. Alrighty, so the electronics are done. Next thing is going to be to add a audio input feature, which allows the user to listen to music or whatever they want to hear, versus just AM radio, because there's not a lot of music on AM these days, especially not in the US. Not sure what it's like where you live, but here it's mostly just talk, sports, religion, news. If you like that kind of thing, that's okay. But if you want to listen to something else, we're going to provide this option for the future owner to do so. All right, so let's go ahead and add this audio input. And what we're going to do is go through the top and bottom of the volume control. This is it right here. When I say top and bottom, top is where your incoming radio signal comes in from your IF transformer. And then the bottom is the ground, which is this guy. It's obvious because we've got the safety cap going to ground. We're going to go through this isolation transformer, and if you're curious about what this really is, it's just a wall wart transformer. 120 volts in, 12 to 6 volts out. This is the primary, the secondary being the low voltage side. And we're going to run this 3.5 millimeter stereo cable through the secondary side of the transformer. But we need to make sure that we make true mono by running the right and left channels through a pair of 33 ohm resistors. And that combines our right and left channels together safely, and then the negative of the incoming audio goes on the other pin. Doesn't matter which one. And then these two pins will go to either side of the volume control. And then we'll also need to have a means to cut the radio signal so that when someone's streaming their music through here, they won't be interrupted by the radio, and vice versa. So we're going to, this white wire here is the RF signal, or the IF signal, I'm sorry. And we'll run a little wire out the back and to this little switch so we can turn the IF signal off and on. And lastly, what we want to do is drill a hole through the back of the cabinet and put our chassis and put this rubber grommet so that when we run the audio cable through, it's not going to chafe on anything. Not sure if you're following me, but once I get it installed, I will show you and explain what that looks like. Okay, so we have the audio input installed. Here's our isolation transformer going to the top and bottom of the volume control, and we have our switch wire coming out the back. It doesn't need to be quite this long. You want to keep it as short as possible because it acts like a big antenna. I've got a little Bluetooth running through it.
When you wake up, let the slide be enough for you to let go of me.
It's not going to be a boomer, you know. It's like a 4.5-inch speaker, but it's fine. Once it's back in the cabinet, it'll actually sound better. Before I button it up, I usually put a little glue on top of the transformer just in case for some reason it like knocks free. I don't want it to touch anything electrical. Again, it's just me being OCD. I want to make sure it's going to be secure. And then we can start reassembly.
Snout and a cute curly tail, loving his life in the filth and grime. Happy although little does he know it's breaking time. Be the best cook you can be. A taste of sugar biggie beef. I'll see you in the kitchen. Oh, I'm only wishing.
Highly recommend that band. They're from my hometown, Knoxville, Tennessee. They're called the Royal Hounds. They do a bunch of silly rockabilly songs, and I love it. Anyway, this thing sounds pretty darn good. Let's take it off of the Bluetooth and flip our little switch back here.
And what options on interest rate futures are
Downstairs.
They just made such strides in, hitting with 2 strikes.
Anyway, this thing is super sharp. The video doesn't really do it justice. It's this very, very finite color. It's like pistachio green. I know in the video it probably looks white, but this is pretty. It's a really pretty radio. In fact, I like it so much I might have to see if the museum wants to sell it to me. Otherwise, someone else will get it, and they'll be very, very happy with it. I would think. I'm going to bet that if we take this to one of our shows, it's going to last about 5 minutes, and it's going to be gone. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this abbreviated episode of Radiorama. If you have any questions or comments, you can get to those comments down below. I'll try to answer them, even though I've been doing a very poor job of doing that lately, so I apologize. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Adios.